Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So obviously we're in a different setting than normal, so we all have these mics. So if you're speaking, just make sure your mic is either the little red light is on, or if it's a button, just make sure the button is up, and then that's on. There you go. Alright. So yeah, welcome everybody. My name is Nick Kremp. I'm the conservation agent in Leominster. Before we get started, just ask everyone to silence any devices you might have so we don't get any interruptions during hearings. And I will start us off with a roll call of commissioners present. Chuck Raymond.
Here.
Rich Gullick.
Here.
Jim Chambers.
Here.
Bob Seacard.
Yep.
Mike Seekey.
Here.
Nick Venti.
Here.
And absent is Steph Quinlan, but we have 6 out of 7, so that's a quorum. And I will hand it off to our chairman, Chuck Raymond.
Thank you, Nicholas. All right, usually I want to make sure I start off with each agenda by asking, inviting anybody in the audience who is here for something besides something on the agenda to please let us know what's going on. But I think I know why you're here, so, and I know why you're here, Wendy, so, so we'll move on then. Nothing under new hearings. Continued hearings, I'll go ahead and read it into the record. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 130, Johannes, you can hear me okay? Okay. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent for the reconstruction of an office building in the riverfront area of the North Nashua River. Address 508 Main Street, map and parcel. Chris, make sure I'm reading this right. Public right-of-way in front of 14 to 19.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was another, I meant to send out another agenda. It's this one. That's
Okay.
my mistake.
I'll change it then. Address 508 Main Street, map and parcel 232-9, DP number 199-1203. Sir, introduce yourself and carry on.
All right. For the record, Chris Anderson with Hannigan Engineering, here on behalf of Sharp El-Sadi for the notice of intent for the reconstruction of an office building at 508 Main Street. We were before the commission a few weeks ago now, or about a month now, actually. We continued at the previous meeting, I believe due to no DEP number and the commission requesting a site walk to review the existing condition of the property. Since that time, we performed a site walk, reviewed the existing condition. As many of the commission members might be aware, property currently contains an existing commercial structure, if you will, near the center of the property. The site is predominantly rendered impervious through gravel and pavement surrounding the building, existing structure. In addition to that, there is a already pre-existing dilapidated structure near the north corner of the property near the Nashua River. It's the intent of the applicant to demolish that structure and reconstruct in its footprint with the noted exception of squaring off the building for construction purposes. Additional improvements to the site include reconfiguration of the parking lot areas as well as additional landscaping areas to offset the impacts to the riverfront area that are being proposed. We did receive DEP comment and we did provide a written response to them, one of which is a certificate of compliance associated with the previous order conditions under DEP number 199859. That was issued back in like 2007-ish. At that time, none of the work was actually completed, so we're requesting a COC, which will be heard later on in the evening, to close out that order of conditions so any permitting can move forward on this property itself as the project stands right now. There was also a myriad of other comments. If there's anything, it's quite extensive relative to the riverfront and its overall impacts. We did provide additional documentation relative to the redevelopment criteria of the Riverfront Act as well. So if there's any specific questions from the commission at this point in time, I'll be more happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. I've just got a few questions here myself. Seeing as it was addressed to me, I figured I'd read it. So under this comment number 2, you mentioned that there's a drop in elevation of the base flood elevation of 7.2 feet. And just to confirm, you said on the sidewalk that's due to a downstream dam removal? Is that what that was from?
So at some point in the past, there was an existing dam that was a little bit further downstream of the site. That was removed, and consequently, the floodplain has dropped in that area. Under the current FEMA firm panel that's currently enforceable at this point in time, the elevation of that, the BLSF is at around 327, which accounts for that dam. But once the FEMA updates their firm panels, which we're expecting, that I've heard from several sources, hopefully in January, that'll drop down to 319.8, so about a 7.2 foot drop,
Okay.
which would pull effectively all the work that's being proposed currently out of the BLSF.
Thank you.
I've got that preliminary firm map up on the screen if anyone's interested. So you can, if you can see my cursor, that's 508 Main Street, and then the closest elevation is 319.8.
Which I believe runs actually just north of the property, so it's
Yeah.
holding the 319 number, keeps a conservative estimate.
508, and then the elevation.
Can you wave your cursor?
Hmm?
Can you wave your cursor on the screen? I don't see it either from here or on the camera.
I'll look for a point. Right up in here.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
508 right there. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just state for the record, Stephanie Quinlan is joining us now.
Steph, welcome. All right. All set with that? Okay. Couple other things, let's see. Steph, make sure your microphone, yeah, the light's on, okay. All right. And this major, in fact, Chris, I think I might have mentioned this to you before, but just going under comment number 6. Just to make sure there aren't typos here, make sure I understand possible DEP doublespeak. The narrative includes statements that the project will result in an increase in impervious cover and a decrease in impervious cover. Are those both meant to say impervious, or what's happening here?
So there will be a decrease of impervious area, such as pavement,
A
gravel.
decrease in pervious area. So that IM is a mistake.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the first statement should be pervious cover should be increasing.
Okay, so let me then, so it'll be, will result in an increase in pervious area
In
and a decrease
space
in
pervious.
impervious area.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. And your assertion is that there will be a net decrease in impervious area of about 634 square feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And going on to late in your response to comment 7. I had to look up LUHIPL, or whatever that acronym is. Land uses with higher potential pollutant loads. You say, it is the understanding of this office, meaning your office, that the service bays have been fitted with the appropriate oil grit separators in the floor drain system to capture oils and grits prior to discharge to the municipal sanitary. So it's your understanding, has that actually been verified?
We haven't verified it 100%, but in walking through the building itself, you can see floor drains throughout the building.
Okay.
And the site has a double sewer manhole system immediately in front of the garage bay, which is very indicative to a sanitary sewer connection, as well as the appropriate oil grit separator, MDC trap.
Okay, thank you. So it is, as it says here, that those floor drains do discharge to the municipal sanitary sewer system.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Those are the only questions I had. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, thoughts? Richard? Nope. There you go. On is up. There you go. You may have to lean in a little bit.
You mentioned the gravel being impervious. I disagreed on site with that during our visit. I still disagree with that. Can you please quantify that in some sense, such as runoff coefficients, what are typical?
Correct. So, as the board might be aware, when we do our stormwater calculations, we apply a coefficient of runoff to the various surface types that are on a property: grass, woods, pavement, gravel, anything like that. There's a little bit more into the calculation for that, but effectively the best way to describe it in layman's terms is that the coefficient of runoff is effectively the percentage of the runoff that hits the surface and runs off the surface itself. For example, impervious cover such as pavement has a 98 rating, which means effectively 98% of the runoff that hits that surface hits it and sheet flows off of that surface. Grass and woods usually has a coefficient of 30 when it's applied to a hydrological A soil, which is what this is, which is pretty much sand and gravel. Just to give you a spectrum of what those numbers are. When we look at gravel that's compacted and utilized as vehicle travel paths, we apply a coefficient runoff of 96.
Where do you get that from, sir? Because I've looked this up myself and found several contradictory numbers that are much lower than that. I didn't accept that number at the site, I still don't. What's your reference for that 96%?
So it's all referenced in the TR manuals, TR 20 and 55, what the current stormwater regulations and design criteria are based on.
I had asked Nick to inquire through Chris about this. Had you done that?
No,
Or I sent you an email about this.
Yes, you did.
So that he would be prepared for this question tonight.
Yes. My
Okay.
apologies.
So, assuming, just for sake of argument, assuming that gravel is quite permeable, which I will still insist it is, doesn't make any difference to this. I don't mind it being paved instead of gravel, but I don't want to be told it's impervious, and therefore is not changing to impervious, because it is changing from pervious to impervious, that part of the property. That was my main comment.
Okay, I appreciate the
So I'm
comment.
hoping for an answer from Nick as
Okay.
to what difference it makes in terms of any regulation. As I said, I would still allow the paving, because we just consider the site. But if it somehow doesn't calculate properly as to what's allowed, then we need to enforce that law.
Nick, weren't you telling me earlier that there's something in the regs that mentions topsoil?
Yeah, so there's a lot of terms getting thrown around, so there's this question of whether or not the gravel, hard packed gravel, regrind should be considered impervious or not. There's also a separate discussion about whether that should be considered degraded or not. Degraded sites are, it's referenced in the act that areas that are vegetated or contain topsoil cannot be considered degraded for the purposes of this and should be included in that degraded area. However, like the site that we saw between the building and the river, everyone that was at the site visit, you could see that there was some grass growing up through the stone and the gravel in there, but there was no topsoil to speak of. I think you would agree
I
with
would
that.
call it
Rich?
hard packed gravel,
Yeah.
which is the exact numbers I looked up. Gravel roads that were hard packed, and it wasn't 96%, it was more 0.5, 0.7.
Right.
At most 0.7.
But in
Some
regard-
lower than 0.5.
So
So
in-
I'd like to know the exact, so can you send us an email to the agent citing that exact source? Where you got the 96%? I'd appreciate that,
So.
regardless of our outcome tonight.
Yes, so regarding the degraded status of that, it would seem to me that this meets the criteria for degraded area, because even though there is some grass going up through there, it's clearly been spread with regrind and vehicles driving over it, and it's been utilized as a developed part of the property for a while. So that's why I would consider this degraded. I wouldn't consider it impervious. I would consider this an increase in impervious area for this portion of the property. However, it's not an undeveloped portion, so it's not, it can be counted towards that redevelopment area, would be my opinion of that part of the property anyway. So it might be going to a more impervious surface than it is now, but it's previously degraded. It's not like it's new development that's going in there.
I agree with the degraded descriptor.
Yeah.
However, Mass DEP also
Dick, hold
pointed,
on a second. Are you all set? Do you have anything?
I am, sir. Thank
Okay,
you.
go ahead then.
to that point, Mass DEP also pointed out that should this result as an increase in impervious area, that the stormwater management plan needs to be more thoroughly developed. So that would, so if that characterization of the existing conditions changes and results in the proposal would result in an increase in impervious surface area, the stormwater management plan under this proposal needs to be more thoroughly developed.
So Chris, you already included this area in the increase in impervious surface, correct?
So the gravel area we considered as an impervious surface.
Okay.
So if the commission decides that that area does not truly function as such, we would have to reevaluate the drainage analysis. I will note that because of the tight space constraints and elevation issues that we do have on the property, it would be very difficult to install several of the stormwater management features we typically use. Primarily because we do have quite a precipitous drop off on this National Riverside. So the site has historically been utilized as a traversable way through this area that we're referencing as the quote-unquote regrind gravel area. So the precedents, I think most of the commission members on site agreed, it's definitely a degraded surface. It's definitely not pervious as in the sense of grass or woodland, but it is a pseudo state between the pervious and impervious condition, if you will, for lack of a better term. But because it has that higher coefficient of runoff, we're considering that the impervious area. As discussed also on site, we are putting in some stormwater management features to help offset the impacts of this, because we are effectively turning it from that pseudo state to a definite impervious state in close proximity to the actual river itself. So we are installing that infiltration trench, if you will, right along the outer edge. In addition to that, planting additional plants and trees between the site and the river itself to help provide additional velocity mitigation as the runoff exits the site. As the commission might remember, I reviewed the trench as something, as a means to slow down the smaller storm events. So the one-year storms, less, a few inches here and there, that's what that trench is designed to accommodate. It fills up with water, infiltrates back into the ground, and once it fills up, it'll sheet flow as it is right now.
You've already just, Nick,
Can
you
you
all
just
set?
point out that area? I wasn't at
Oh.
the site visit, so I'm not sure.
Right in here.
Okay, thank you.
Guardrail is more or less, the guardrail is more or less the thick dotted line, right?
Correct.
More or
yeah.
less?
More or less.
So it'd be right along in here.
So it's the intent to maintain that edge and not go any further closer to the river itself, for obvious reasons.
Anything else, Jim? Richard, you already.
Yeah, I would just disagree with the pseudo-pervious or pseudo-impervious assessment. The numbers I saw for coefficients of runoff were much lower than the 98% for the impervious pavement, and closer to regular soil, basically.
Can we test that simply? And is there a simple way to simply determine the runoff coefficient of this particular material?
It would be,
Look at it during the rain.
Let Chris answer that question.
Sorry.
as Mr. Golick said, you can look at it during the rain, but not really. So it's a disconnect of how the models work and versus what happens in reality. You can't look at it as in a microscopic setting. You have to look at it as a macroscopic setting, if you will, when it comes to stormwater runoff coefficients.
So you can't just pour water on a spot and see what happens?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't do that.
Okay.
Isn't that similar to a perk test?
No. Percolation
Jim, I think
tests
you
are,
need to get closer to the microphone. Thank you.
a percolation test, it measures an entirely different component of soil hydraulics.
All right, anybody else? Questions, comments, thoughts, concerns?
Just a thought on what we have now on site. You're stating that you found quite a few drains, on the floor drains?
There are floor drains within the structure itself, yes.
I don't know if we have a good history or a grasp of what went on with this building before this development here.
You mean before this building was there?
Yeah, I'm just concerned, Chuck, that maybe we have contamination and wondering if there have been any soil sampling or any kind of wells dug, or what we have there now underneath this place.
Are there any RTNs for this site?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. Release tracking numbers is how the DEP tracks contaminated sites. And if there were no RTNs, active RTNs on this site. There's no property, there's no sale of this property, there's no transaction going on. Unless we found something while walking around, there's no source of information that there's any contamination.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would say they're not under like an obligation to do that assessment.
So there is no?
Not, there is not.
Correct, exactly, yeah. That answer your question?
Yeah, kind of,
And to continue, I'm sorry, but we do not have the regulatory power to make them go drill some monitor wells.
understand. I
Okay.
just wondered how much excavation are you gonna do underneath that platform, under the cellar?
Under the structure we're intending to redevelop.
Yeah,
So right now it's a shallow foundation, so there's not much headroom. Once we get everything up and running, it's gonna be effectively holding the existing grade on the riverside for the purposes of construction. So I would expect the closer you go towards River Street, it's gonna get dug out a couple extra feet below the existing foundation grade.
okay, so you'll find whatever you find. I'm not too concerned, Chuck, because this is gonna be a big improvement. It's not another oil changing
Mhm.
company going in there, you know, I'm not really concerned about
Okay.
that, so I'm good.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns?
I'd just like to follow up on our earlier discussion about the area between the building and the river and the improvements proposed for that. So it would be my understanding that we're increasing the imperviousness of this area in one way or another, is going from hard packed gravel to asphalt. But as Chris mentioned before, there's no stormwater treatments, BMPs existing as it is, and they're proposing putting in a swale, like stone swale at the very least, so. Is that
I wouldn't phrase it as a swale.
not a swale, but
A trench.
stone trench along the, whereas it just flows into the riverbank right
Yes.
now, so.
Sir?
Yep, and in line with that, then, as Chris said, that you would have to recalculate some of what you did if that little stretch of packed gravel is considered impervious. That's what I would encourage we go to, and then be able to prove it in that manner, with however that recalculates.
So would you be asking for them for continuous to do that?
That would be my request until that's, because I don't want to approve it based on something I consider faulty, and that is the assumption that that is impervious material. Because everything I saw, if you wanted, you could pull up the email I had sent you that had some of the values, and it wasn't 96, so. I got curious, went home and looked it up.
So we can provide the TR 55 manuals and documents,
Okay.
everything that we use to create our stormwater hydraulic analysis.
I'm just looking for that one thing, not everything.
Well,
And
it's-
look at some other values and
Oh,
see
I-
what there are also.
I think it also would be helpful if you would have, you or Nick forward that email to Chris, so he can see.
I should have done that.
I had asked for that before this.
Okay, so if you could forward that to Chris? Yep. Okay. Chris, would that be okay with you, and maybe we continue for a couple weeks?
Sure. So when would the commission be meeting next, I guess?
Was it November
November 12th.
12th?
12th?
So I think everything else seems to be in order. We just had, we mostly Rich, but that's certainly fine. I just have the guys concerned about the coefficient of, the runoff coefficient.
And I'm sorry about the continuance, but I did try to
No,
address it.
no apology
Tried to
necessary.
address it in
Yep.
advance through
That
That
Chris.
is
was-
completely my responsibility, so I'm sorry for that. but-
I'm concerned about that too.
Okay.
I mean, to me, whether the permeability of, or the perviousness of that area is critical
Okay.
as,
All right.
as built right now. And,
Okay.
Because effectively it would result in an increase in
And I believe-
impervious surface and
That's what I'm thinking.
a more thorough stormwater management plan requirement. So
Maybe.
well, by the law.
Okay.
However that.
All set, Nick?
Yep.
Okay, Mike?
I'm just curious, they're proposing to put in this trench, isn't that gonna mitigate a lot of the issue that we're
That's-
discussing here now?
Those are my thoughts personally, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to the development, I'm opposed to the methodology it's been applied in that one specific application.
I
That's all.
don't blame you for that.
I
but
don't
hate to
mind it
hold
being
them up
paved,
for it.
I really don't.
Well, I understand your concern, Michael, but I think it is a legitimate concern, and I think if Chris has the resources to address it, hopefully a two-week continuance won't be any major burden on the property owner.
Yep, so I'll take a look at that. Relative to the condition of the site, I do know that the applicant or the landowner does have old photos of that area that shows it more of a utilized space than it is right now, but unfortunately, he's had issues with his phone and his documentation, so if I can hopefully find something that shows this area being in a more impervious state, if you will, than the looser gravel that's currently on top, which is because that was from the 9/11 storm, he just didn't clean it up.
I'm assuming it's a packed gravel, like a packed gravel road.
Very packed gravel surface.
Which gave still a much lower coefficient than.
Yeah. So we'll reevaluate. I'll send Nick the information,
At TR55.
the TR55 and
Thank
20 documentation that we use for our calculations. And with that being said, we'll reevaluate the site layout if needed. Unfortunately, I think at that point in time, we would have to convert the site from pavement to gravel, at least in this one section, just to keep below the impervious ratio. So we're doing a surface to surface. That would be unfortunately the takeoff, which relative to the applicant's longevity of the property would just add on to the maintenance concerns. So just so the commission's aware that if the route goes that way, we will have to probably remove that pavement and turn it into gravel again. So you're going from gravel to gravel, apple to apple, if you will.
All right. All right.
May I?
Yes,
one-
please, yeah.
And I just wanted to say, I wasn't trying to undermine the concern there.
Mhm.
The question about the trench was only for my own education and seeing if that was going to assist in the problem. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Personally, I agree on that one, but I think we definitely want to address Rich's concern, so.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Hopefully it won't stop with his plan. That's my hope. Thank you.
All right, good. With that then, I'll entertain a motion to continue, I don't have to close anything, we're just going to continue, right?
Nope, yeah, just
Yeah.
continue.
Yes, entertain a motion to continue the hearing to our meeting on November 12th.
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rich. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mike.
I will take the commission's vote by roll. Nick Venti,
Aye.
Mike Seeking,
Aye.
Bob Seacard. Aye. Chuck Rayner,
Aye.
Steph Quinlan,
Aye.
Jim Chambers.
Aye.
And Rich Cullick.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, moving on then, I'll read this one in. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on notice of intent for the demolition of a single-family house in the riverfront area of Reservoir Brook. Address 208 Pleasant Street, map and parcel 339-2, DP number 199-1204. And Wendy,
Hi,
introduce yourselves to those uninitiated.
Wendy Weeks. I'm the grant administrator for the city, and I reside at 142 Blossom Street in Leominster.
Thank you.
As many of you know, 208 Pleasant Street was kind of one of the epicenters of the September.
I just thought of something. I said I was going to do this beforehand. So just as a refresher, anybody who cares to know, this was on our agenda last time, and Wendy wasn't here, nobody here to present on it, but Nick did fill us in on the project. We had our neighbors ask us questions and speak on his behalf as well, and we had a chance to ask Nick questions. So we're fairly up to speed on the issue. But with that said, carry on. Sorry about that.
Okay, so, no, that's fine. Thank you, because that saves me a lot of
Yeah.
breath. So we're looking to tear down the house now. We're looking to move forward with that. We have to remove all impervious surface on the lot. The goal is for this part, just to get to that point. Then MassDOT is going to fund this project, and we will be back to you for any improvements that, the design will happen. The other thing I want to add about the demolition of the house, I'm not sure if it came up last time, is that they are going to treat this property as if it's contaminated. So it's going to be removed extremely carefully and disposed of as if there was asbestos, because nobody can get in it at this point. So it is gonna be done really carefully.
What's the year of construction? What's the year of construction on the house? You know?
1940 something?
Yeah, it was
So-
the 40s. I can't
Yeah.
remember what year, but.
Yeah. So
Thank you,
we,
Jim. If we could let her finish before we ask questions, I appreciate it.
so we're, you know, it's gonna be done very carefully. And then we'll get to that point, and then MassDOT will come in and start their analysis of the property. They've already done some survey work. So that's really, you know, the goal here is to keep that property as open space, as part of an open channel for the entire drainage system for that area.
All set?
Yes?
Okay,
thank
my,
you.
my only question, that was brought up last time we were here, was that once everything's been pulled out of there, the house, the impervious surfaces and everything, gonna be a big hole there. Can you speak about how safety is gonna be addressed at that?
As far as I know, we're gonna put a fence around that. We're gonna, I'm not sure if MassDOT's gonna take over the site. They may do that. But regardless, at a minimum, there'll be, you know, I know we have to be careful with filling and all that, you know, filling in the site, but we'll make it so that it's safe for everybody, whether that's a big fence or whatever.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Jim, yeah, back to you.
Why would MassDOT get involved? It's not
So-
a state highway.
So, the best explanation I can give to this, which we all learned from September 11th, is even our own Department of Public Works learned this, is that there are federal highways and there are federal aid roads, which Leominster has many. So Pleasant Street is considered on this map as a federal aid road. So is Mechanic Street, so is Union Street, a lot of other streets, Exchange Street I think is on there. So a lot of these streets, in terms of federal funding, can qualify. So it was rejected, we didn't get money from FEMA for public safety, for public service, you know, the public land. So we are then eligible for federal aid road money. So this is estimated to be about 2.7 million by the time they're done funding the whole, because that's a temporary fix on Pleasant Street. That's, you know, that's just to keep the road open. So they're gonna redo that whole entire area. So that's where the money comes from. So, you know, as long as it's coming from somewhere, I guess, right?
And you have a demolition permit already?
Not yet. That'll come when because we have to put the project out to bid. So as soon as we put it out to bid, the contractor will pull that.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions, thoughts, concerns?
This would just, oh, sorry. This is just for the removal of the structure, right?
Correct.
Not for any other redevelopment?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Just making sure.
Along with the driveway and the shed in the back.
Any impervious.
Right,
And
so not just the house, but
Yes.
like
Yeah.
everything, okay.
All right.
Yeah, nice presentation, Wendy. My only concern is, obviously, the flood happened and it slammed into this house.
Mhm.
When we remove this barrier, I'm just cautious of if it happens or someone close to what happened, what's gonna happen downstream from this sort of structure, you know, to cause more damage if we don't slow it down, you know.
That's why the price tag to fix it is almost $3 million, because they're gonna do a comprehensive, you know, they know that the people on, I think it's 192 Pleasant Street, I think they're condos,
Yeah.
I think that's the other.
Yep.
That, you know, everybody in that neighborhood is subject to flooding. And so that's why they're taking a comprehensive look at the entire area, and so they're really gonna, you know, they wanna not just fix the immediate problem, they wanna fix the whole thing.
Okay, so it won't be just the demolition, it'll be engineering all around.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all
Yes.
right, that's,
And then we'll come, when that's done, or during that process, we'll come back to conservation with whatever they're proposing.
okay, that was my only concern, is to protect the people down below.
Yep.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Okay. Anybody in the audience? Sir, do you have any questions for Wendy or for us? Introduce yourself, if so, just introduce yourself. Come on, actually, we're gonna need the microphone, so.
Yeah, my name is Grant Garcia. I'm in a butter at 219 Pleasant Street, so on the other side of Pleasant. So my understanding is that initially, with the removal, You're going to just obviously remove the house carefully, and then it's going to be encircled by a fence. And the design for what eventually happens with that property and what it's going to look like later on, that will be coming down the road, is that correct?
Yes.
And then,
Soon, because we have a timeline by federal government so I know, that's kind of funny, but, things usually take longer with the federal government, but,
And that's because of the DOT funding?
the DOT funding comes from federal highway, it trickles down.
Yeah.
So there is a timeline that we have to get something underway within 2 years of the storm. So, we've already passed the 1 year,
Right.
so it will be quick.
will there be an opportunity for feedback from
Yes.
the neighborhood
Yes,
in terms of what eventually that property looks like?
yes.
In
Yeah.
what form and what will
Well,
the
they'll
venue
have a
be for
public,
that?
I think it follows the similar process as like a Route 12 redevelopment. So you'd have a 25% design, 75%.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's, but I can check on that and make sure that, but I think it's on the
It
similar.
would be nice to know.
And also, once there is a design out there, they'll be coming back to us with what's called a notice of intent. So you'll see advertising in the paper about it coming before us here again. Well, not this room, but upstairs, but but in front of us.
You should get one directly as an abutter as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, good. Those that live in the neighborhood have a sense of what activity goes on there. For instance, the concern I have is that it is a school bus stop. There's a lot of children there that gather. And it would be nice if they had more than just a sidewalk to stand on, and with a fence right behind it, right? So I think there's opportunities, and it would be nice to get input from the neighborhood too. So that's one of my primary concerns. Last meeting, our agent, Nicholas Kremp, mentioned that that they're thinking about dredging the stream also down there by the condos.
It's a possibility.
Possibility.
Yeah.
I would strongly encourage that be looked at, so I'm just bringing it out here so it can be taken a note of, because the elevation of the stream dropped significantly because of all the silt that was washed away. So I used to be able to walk across the stream. I have to jump down 2 to 3 feet in some areas, and then jump up on the other bank. So there's a lot of silt that was washed downstream that needs to be engineered, taken care of.
Okay.
Thank you. for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Appreciate it very much. All right. Anybody else? All right. So with this,
Sorry.
there's nothing in front of us, there's nothing to close here, correct?
No, this is an NOI.
Oh,
This is a notice of intent just for the demolition.
sorry about that. Lose my, okay. Anybody else in the public? No? Okay. With that, then I'll entertain a motion to close this portion of the hearing, the public portion of the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Nick.
I'll second.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. I'll take the commission's vote by roll call. Mike Seeke,
Aye.
Nick Venti,
Aye.
Bob Seacard,
Aye.
Jim Chambers,
Aye.
Steph Quinlan,
Aye.
Rich Gullick,
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
All right, so public portion is closed.
With that then, based on the presentation, both by Nick last time and Wendy and the butter, I'll entertain a motion then to approve the notice of intent for this, for the demolition of the house at 208 Pleasant Street, as described by everybody here, and DP number 199-1204.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Steph. Is there a second?
Thanks, second.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, take the commission's vote by roll. Nick Venti,
Aye.
Mike Seeke,
Aye.
Bob Seacard,
Aye.
Jim Chambers,
Aye.
Steph Quinlan,
Aye.
Rich Gullick,
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
All right, motion approves, and I will get you that order of conditions this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Mr. Garcia.
All right, moving on then, under the regular meeting, certificate of compliance, 508 Main Street, DP number 199-859. This is an old one, huh?
Yes, so this is for the site that Chris was just talking to us about, Mr. Anderson. So that was one of DEP's comments was in reference to that previous DEP file number, which the work was never commenced. It was for, I believe, the reconstruction of that main building on the site and some work improving the parking lot area. As Chris had mentioned, that work never commenced, so we've all been on site and have seen it. I can attest to the site as it exists is the same as it was on the existing site plan from that previous order of conditions. So I would recommend that we issue an invalid order of conditions stating that the work was never commenced on site.
All right, with that then, oh, Jim.
Oh, why couldn't they just withdraw the original NOI?
So the way that it works is an applicant submits a notice of intent and they're seeking an order of conditions. They receive that one way or the other from the commission. So they had gotten an order of conditions approved in the past for this file number. So the way to close that out is with a certificate of compliance. The certificate of compliance can be a number of options. The one that we normally do is a complete certificate of compliance. That just states that the work described on the order was done as described and nothing else. An invalid order of conditions states that the work was never commenced, even though the order of conditions would have, like the time had passed that it would have happened. So it's only good for 3 years. It's well past that. Just saying the order never started, and that's the form that the certificate takes.
Okay, thank you.
With that then, I'll entertain a motion to approve an invalid order of conditions for 508 Main Street, number 199-859.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay. I'll take the commission's vote by roll. Nick Benty,
Aye.
Mike Seeke,
Aye.
Bob Seacard,
Aye.
Jim Chambers,
Aye.
Steph Quinlan,
Aye.
Rich Gullik,
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
All right. So that is passed
All right.
7-0.
Super. Thank you all. All right, moving on. Next one under certificate of compliance. Take my glasses off so I can read. 596 Elm Street, DP number 199-1137.
Yeah, so I am going to request that we leave this to the side for now. That order of conditions was for the construction of a single-family house at this address. That house has been completed, however, some of the lawn work, some of the other exterior work, the grass still has to come in and stabilize the site. In addition to that, the property owner told me today that he is hoping to build a detached garage on site. So they may add that as a modification to this existing order, or he may not go through with that. So depending on the outcome of that, either way, the site is not completely finished as it is. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna get back to the applicant, the owner, and just work out what he wants to do with the property, and then we'll revisit this once it's completed.
Okay, so nothing we have to do with that tonight?
Nothing for
Okay.
right now. Nope.
All right. All right, cool. Moving on, under enforcement, 1771 Lock Drive Restoration. And I believe we have a fine young gentleman here to present on this tonight.
A young gentleman?
Oh, fine, anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Morrow, environmental consultant, professional wetland scientist, curmudgeon.
Raconteur.
Yep. I just wanted to, give you these plans. Nick, you have an electronic version? Because if you don't, I have a jump drive I can.
Oh yeah, if you have it ready, that would be much easier.
Boy Scout, always prepared.
Thank you, sir. Plan A and Plan B.
I was a Boy Scout too.
Me too. You only got it business. I failed that right now.
Yeah.
Thanks, boss.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, nice paper.
All right.
And Nick, here's the, you just download it from the Drive 5, I'll pick that up.
Thank you. Don't let me forget.
was gonna say there should only be one file on it that. There you go.
All right, there it is.
Okay, so to date, we have Lot 2, which has been given a certificate of compliance. Lot 1, which I am examining the compliance issues with that one on right now. We did a 22,000 square foot restoration that is shown on the plans. That restoration area has grown in. The 99% of the detritus that was floating around that site has been cleaned up. The former tenant that was causing a lot of the, shall we say, collection of scrap issues has vacated the building. Site is in much better condition than it has been in a while. What we're doing right now is we just had the detention basin cut and maintained. We are taking the plantings that have to go around the detention basin back to the restoration area. Those should be planted within the next week. I have told the property owner there are 2 dead trees in the front of Lot 1 that were previously planted that have to be removed and replaced, which they are going to be. The only items that remain is you see in front of you 4 shrubs between lots 1 and 2 that weren't planted. And in back of Lot 2, you've got regrind. So the current owner of Lot 1, or the person who's buying the building, wants to leave the regrinds in place. So I've spoken to the planning board about that. I will eventually be filing for a minor modification with the planning board.
Okay.
So what we're doing right now is I am having the engineer reevaluate the whole site, the prior stormwater calculations, because in the cursory evaluation of the stormwater calculations, it appears that regardless of what surface was proposed versus what's there now, it's essentially identical. Especially since planting an overstory in the back now has done just a teeny enough change to even out the stormwater. So we're going to look at doing that, getting the place further cleaned up and adding, if you look at the restoration area, we're gonna look at adding sections of post and beam fencing. They'll have gaps in it for people to walk through, so it won't totally isolate it. But we're gonna have post and beam fencing added in sections all along the restoration area with signs on it saying restored area, no intrusion. So that, you know, there's no, so I've already had stuff pulled back out of the edge of the restoration area that started to accumulate. So we're just gonna put the fences in there so we have no further like intrusion or, you know, slow creeping inventory going in there or anything like that. That's what we're looking at right now. I wanted to let you guys know the shrubs should be planted by probably this time next week, going around the detention basin. And then I'll be back to talk to you guys about it to see if you guys would approve a certificate of compliance that way. Once everything is done, you need a minor modification to the old order, whatever you guys need, we'll make sure is done. But either way, that area is gonna be planted in conformance with its stormwater. We're gonna have the stormwater redone and sent to the planning board for the minor modification to show that pre and post development stormwater, what was proposed originally, is essentially the same thing. And then we're gonna have that restoration section cordoned off so that we don't have any further problems.
Okay.
Yes, no, any suggestions,
Is
additions?
that your story?
That's my, yes.
Sticking to it? Okay.
Yeah, unless you tell me different.
First of all, I need to commend you on the term slow creeping inventory. That was very creative and I appreciate that.
It's kind of accurate too when you
And
think
it is. My only concern, thank you for this, by the way, Matt, this looks fantastic. My only issue is, I was hoping those plants could be put in next spring. The only reason, because you put them in a week or two, they very much less chance of surviving another growing season. Any thoughts on that matter?
Believe it or not, actually, if you put them in like probably before mid-November, considering the weather pattern we have right now, they actually will probably take.
Okay.
And any that don't, they can easily just as easily be replanted in the spring.
Okay, just save them a little bit of money if they plant, but anyway, I just thought I'd bring it up. That's my only concern. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions, concerns? I think this is a great step forward.
I would add that arborvitae likes to be planted dormant. So if you plant it in the winter,
Okay.
it likes that. And there's a lot of arborvitae proposed around
Yeah,
here.
I said, yeah. Okay, thank you, Nick.
Cool.
Bob?
Yeah, I haven't been to the site lately, Matt. Is all those vehicles pretty much?
They're gone.
They're gone?
They're gone.
No more questions.
So is the facility more or less vacant now?
No, there's somebody else in there now, but it's not as outside inventory-ish as the last tenant was.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Thanks, Matt.
all right. I think we're good. Anything we need to do tonight?
No, he's just providing an update, and then
I just want to make sure you guys knew that we were moving on this and that we just weren't dragging our feet and that things were actually moving.
yeah, and just to follow up on one of your specific points from earlier, I think it would be best to have this come as at least a modification to an existing order, if not an amendment. But yeah, we can talk about that more
Okay.
after. And then, do you think you'll be ready for November 12th to come in for that?
Depends on the engineer.
Okay.
So
Right,
let's
yeah,
just say
certainly
that
not- yeah.
let's just say that my client is working with his engineer to be as expedient as possible.
Okay.
And we may, because if it's not the 12th, we may or may not be having the meeting on the 26th of November because it's Thanksgiving week.
I was gonna say, if you have a meeting on the 26th, I won't be here, and my wife and I will be taking her mother on a cruise to the Turks, so.
Wonderful, nice.
Will you be back by December 10th?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll probably see you then.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, Matt.
thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Don't forget your thumb drive.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
Thank you.
Good, Rich.
Got somebody on top of
We'd
this.
be,
I gotta roll.
we'd be lost in the wilderness if it weren't for you, Rich.
Thanks, Matt. All right, moving on. 51 Howard Street restoration.
Sorry, guys.
Update.
Yes, so y'all might remember that as the Leominster Land Trust parcel that was next to the micro welding shop that had encroached onto their land. So I believe at the last meeting, they had already pulled all their equipment and everything. Well before that meeting, they had pulled all the vehicles and their buildings, the micro welding place did, off of the Leominster Land Trust property. They have since planted all of the small trees that are out there. They made some minor changes to the species out there because of nursery availability, but they have some hawthorns out there at least. And he has hydroseeded a native wildflower mix and sent me a video of the hydroseed mix all out there and sprinklers going and the trees planted. So everything is out there planted. I'm just gonna be monitoring it over the next couple of months and into the spring as that all establishes but everything is pretty much done out there to Leominster Land Trust satisfaction, so that is it.
All right, so just make some notes, excuse me.
Sure.
All right, any questions for Nick? All right, that sounds good, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, he was very helpful, very
Top
compliant.
big
Yeah.
time. Good. All right, moving on, 144 Washington Street violation notice.
Yeah, so this is a very minor thing. I got a call at the end of somewhere around a week and a half ago about some fill possibly in a bordering vegetated wetland behind this neighborhood. So I drove by. You could see some piles of fill in the backyard from the street. I ended up meeting with the neighbor who was the one that had all of this stuff brought in. She's the one handling all of the work. So I just let her know what she needs to get done with us. It should be simple enough, unimpactful enough to come in as a request for a determination of applicability. She's basically doing some minor regrading and existing lawn and having like one or two trees removed. But there's like a swampy area in the back of the yard, so it's all buffer zone work, but it's very minor, all existing lawn stuff. So she's gonna be coming through with that work on an RDA at the next meeting on the 12th.
All right,
It's Washington Street.
Yep.
any questions? All righty. All right, moving on, under meeting minutes, the only one we had this week was the meeting minutes from October 15th. I don't know if you, I did see some people get in there and had made comments and
I
stuff.
looked in, did you go and?
I have not taken a look at them yet.
Okay, so you
I asked
hold-
a couple things to get
Yeah.
looked at by Nick and answered.
We'll hold off
Yeah,
until
we'll
next
hold
time.
off until next, yeah,
Might as well.
yeah.
I'll have
okay.
this ready, I'll have this meeting ready as well, so.
Okay, cool. All right, anything under commissioner comments? Nick, did you say you had something? I thought you had said, no?
No, we did get, we will be seeing a notice of intent in the next meeting for, the Barrett Park Dam.
Oh,
So that is a piece of news. I wasn't planning on mentioning that, but, just looking ahead, because we did talk about the demolition of the house, which is immediately downstream of there. So just to address some of other people's concerns there, they're gonna be starting work on the dam, to rehabilitate that in the next couple of months, assuming that they get all the permits they need, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that came up in the back of my mind again.
Yes.
We're not protecting upstream.
Yeah, no, they have a whole, they've submitted everything to me already, so they'll be coming in. GZA is the company that's doing all that engineering work, so they're gonna be coming in to us.
GZA does a lot of damn work. A lot of damn work.
Yep, a lot of damn
Oh,
work.
so many jokes in there. Yeah, they do a lot of damn work in New England, so they're
Yeah.
very, very good at this.
Yep, so we'll be opening that discussion on the 12th.
I have an unrelated question. So in a site that like somebody came in for an NOI, we gave them the order conditions, whatever, they go and move forward with a redevelopment project, and they come across gross contamination, would we be notified? Would we have a chance to comment on, like, would that change our recommendations? And would we have the opportunity to make those changes?
This reminds me of a previous situation that we've had on Harwood Terrace, where an order of conditions was granted, and then there were issues stemming from that project after the fact. So then we issued an enforcement order and, had some follow-up and everything like that. So in the event that details of a project change or some new information comes about, that definitely, they might no longer be in compliance, whereas they previously were before that information came to light. So it's hard to say in a hypothetical here. I mean, they should let us know if they uncover something crazy, but I can't say for sure whether a property owner or an applicant would do that, but if they would, then we would have the right to have them stop that and issue an enforcement and say, assuming that it's affecting an interest of the Wetland Protection Act that we previously didn't know about.
Like if it was next to a river.
Right, and they didn't account for that contamination before because they didn't know about it, so they need to obviously account for it in some way. So they would need to stop and then reevaluate and change their plans, so that would probably come through as some sort of enforcement order if they weren't cooperating with us.
I think it's whether somebody would follow this or not, but I believe there's something in the special conditions that says with a change of conditions to notify the agent or commissioner.
Yeah.
And if there isn't, we'll make sure it gets in there
Okay.
when we review that.
Yeah, I think that would be prudent to include.
Yeah.
Because you're
I
talking
think
about
that's there.
our
Let's check.
RTNs, right? And if a site happened to acquire an RTN in the middle of a process.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Jim, do you have something?
Do we know about the previous use of various properties that come before us?
Probably nothing more than just being around town for a while.
Well, I mean, if there's a sale of a property in 1957, there was a gas station there, and since then, it's not, there would be a 21E should be done on that property, and that would tell you the environmental conditions.
Yeah.
Right, but if
But if it's been like the same owner,
No, that's why I'm
then-
asking, is it a previous use, same owner for 1,000 years, or for the past 10 years?
If it's been the same owner for, like since the establishment, and they haven't had any, like reportable conditions that have,
Well, then they shouldn't find anything.
well, I mean,
there
There's a
are always
difference.
times, it's quite often, they'll find an old buried underground storage tank that
It
they knew
happens.
was there.
Well, I'm a Superfund engineer, so I understand.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to think this through myself. So if they've got an order of conditions from us and it's a redevelopment site, they go ahead and they dig it around and they find an underground storage tank. Chances are they're gonna find that within the limited work anyway. Then DEP is gonna take over the whole investigation, or an LSP, or a depending on what tier it is. But all that work is gonna be done within the limited work anyway, chances are, so. But it will, like Rich said, we will change the conditions. May have to come in front of us to alter what the agreement we've already, the NOI, I mean, the order of
But
conditions.
I don't know if it would alter
I
NOI, you know?
agree, it might not, I agree, yeah.
But like, if something like that were to come up, I would like for the commission to have the opportunity to maybe make some additional recommendations on, like soil management, stockpiling, you know, it would
Yeah.
be, yeah, it'd be nice to know so we could swing by the site and, like, be able to look at runoff conditions.
Or where they're putting the roll-off container. Or,
Yeah, yep, just curious.
Yeah. Okay, interesting question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe there is, piggybacking off of Rich's comment, I believe there is something in the general conditions about notifying about changing conditions or something new coming up.
Can you check on that?
Yeah,
So-
I will, I
So
will.
we can touch base on the next meeting?
But whether or not there is, I mean, there's definitely an argument that, you know, if there's, something comes to light that previously wasn't known, then, you know, because even in the scenario where there's something happening that's outside of our jurisdiction, but it's can be found to affect a resource area that's part of our jurisdiction, then we can issue enforcement even on that. So
That's true.
if they're in our jurisdiction and then they find something additional, that's probably an issue, some sort of contamination, then that would seem to be in the same kind of vein to me. Like, we can issue enforcement against that to make them submit a new notice of intent.
Okay.
And you mentioned the general conditions, I mentioned special conditions, we brought up the special conditions
Yeah.
last meeting, didn't get onto this agenda, please make sure it gets on the next agenda so that we can discuss it, should get sent out in advance, or we can discuss those changes in
Mhm.
public and make sure that is addressed. Because you
Absolutely.
should see it there,
Yep.
in the general or the revised special.
Right.
So the special condition discussion that will be on, that is on the next agenda already, I've got it on there, but I will distribute that latest draft to everyone with at least a week in advance, so we can have a chance to review it and vote on it.
All right, thank you. Bob, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm just going back to the 508 Main Street again, 1941 house.
Oh, yeah, yep.
To me, highly suspicious, knowing the history of our times, of people doing oil changes and dumping stuff down. And, can we request that when they do start the excavation of that property, to have somebody on there to observe the soil, or, you know, maybe have an organic vapor meter, or, you know, any kind of,
I don't know, can we?
Like some sort of environmental monitor or somebody on site to just
Yeah.
keep an eye on things?
yeah, if something looks funny, you know, along Stephanie's line, how are we supposed
Sure.
to?
But I don't know if we can put that financial burden on them if we don't reasonably.
have any
Yeah,
suspect,
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, 'cause
that's
it's-
why I asked about the previous use of the property.
That is a good
Particularly
question.
in that
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I can look into this property specifically and see what I can find on the history of it. And
Yeah,
then based on that, then we might be able to require that of them, but we'd have to have a reasonable
So,
reason for
yeah,
it.
in a loose interpretation of the interest of the Wetlands Protection Act, I suppose one could argue that it would be prudent for them to have soil vapor analyzer or something while they're doing any digging there. I'm not sure how much digging they're actually gonna be doing. But I don't know if that's something we can truly say, because this place has been developed for well over 100 years, that we want you to test the soil. I don't know if that's within our
No, I already
jurisdiction.
got shot down for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah,
We could, unless the DEP said something about it, no.
yeah, I mean, there's, aside from what, you know, wow, geez, it's been developed for so long, and there's gotta be something there. Anything, without anything more solid and concrete, I don't think we can take that next step.
Speculation.
Yes, pure speculation, exactly.
And a lot of stuff can
Hypotheticals.
come downstream, that was a heavily polluted industrial river.
Yeah,
Stuff flowing by is gonna gonna
Well,
stop?
but it's probably not gonna get sucked up into the site, but there's something could come down the hill and through the property too, towards the, 'cause everything comes down through the river.
Yeah, it is at the, at the
And
base of the whole stream.
The building that they're going to redevelop though was not
No.
a service station.
It was an office type of thing, yeah.
Office kind of thing,
Right.
so.
It was a shed, kind of,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah,
So
they may
the
have
actual-
a leaking lawnmower or something, but, I mean, you can see that every
Yeah,
house in the
that-
city.
Yeah, homeowners.
That's not
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
be a
they're-
regulatory
Yeah.
condition.
Yeah, their action, I don't think leads toward that
Right.
kind of investment.
Yes, typically, these investigations are almost always engendered by a sale of the property or a refinance, where you've got to do it to satisfy the bank.
And they're not taking down the garage.
No,
Staying
they're not
out.
touching the garage, yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's all staying
Side
there,
yard.
all the floor drains stay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't know that.
It's just this back little kind of small shed that's out in the corner. They're
Yeah.
taking down and then putting up a new building.
I mean, they're reconfiguring the pavement in certain areas, moving stuff here and there.
For
but
office,
yeah.
office,
Yeah.
activities.
Just that building in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. No, second one?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right.
Can
All
I
right then.
comment on that site?
You may.
too?
Of course you can.
I just, regarding Rich's point about permeability and
We
stormwater
have
management.
continued this, the discussion.
Oh,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah, you're right, so
Yeah,
we've already,
Sure.
yeah,
All right.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
I
Rich, I
wasn't
appreciate
trying
that.
to reopen the book on this.
You
I was
did.
just trying to ask a vague, general
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
unrelated to any
But yeah, we've already,
specific.
we've already continued, we really shouldn't be discussing it.
Okay.
Thank you, Rich. Once again, Richard Gullick is the voice of reason here. Thank you, Richard.
If
And
anyone,
that's saying something.
if anyone has any specific questions or anything about this or any other business that we're going over, you can ask me anytime and we can have a discussion about it. So.
All right. All right, moving on then. Under the next meetings, our next meeting is scheduled to be
Could I ask one more question? Or should-
about 508 Main Street?
No,
Oh.
no,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
about
okay.
a totally different
Sure,
subject.
absolutely,
So, several weeks ago, we voted to release several $1,000s for the lake leveler,
Yes.
correct? And we found out that that's not gonna happen. What happened, do those funds, do we have to vote those back into the budget now?
No.
Will those funds can't be used for something else, correct?
No, no.
Okay.
So I'm in control of our budget. It's about $14,000 annually. So I was just asking permission of the commission, making sure it was okay with everyone to take 2,000 of that approximately and use it towards the beaver deceivers. But since we're not doing that, then it's
Just
not going
stays where-
anywhere else. It's
Okay.
just staying in the budget until I spend it on something else.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all set? All right, so moving on, so our next meeting will be November 12th, 2024. The filing deadline was last Friday, October 25th at noon. And we may or may not be, as I mentioned before, we may or may not be having the meeting on the 26th, but right now we're scheduled for the 26th of November. The deadline is November 8th, 2024 at noon.
Can I ask everyone something? Can we take a quick straw polls? How many people are anticipating difficulty making it to that meeting if we have it on the 26th?
When's
Just
Thanksgiving?
need to check.
I think
28th.
The 28th, so 2 days
2 days,
after.
2 days before Thanksgiving. As I recall, last year, we forewent the meeting for
Forsook.
Christmas, forsook, for Thanksgiving week and somewhere around Christmas, probably same. Actually, I think it was actually, the meeting was actually Christmas, like.
Perhaps that might depend on how busy it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What we need
so
to
we'll-
approve for people.
Yeah, we'll leave it on the agenda for now, but
Depending on as this next agenda takes shape for the 12th, depending on that, I'll make a call on the next one.
Okay.
But we'll almost certainly cancel the meeting scheduled for Christmas Eve, just so everyone knows, so.
Yeah.
Almost, certainly.
Almost certain.
So just to make sure I said it correctly, so
See how
the,
grinchy I'm feeling.
so next meeting's the 12th, meeting after that is scheduled for November 26th, and the filing deadline is November 8th, 2024 at noon. Just to make sure I said that completely and legibly. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Robert. For a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, I will take the commission's votes. 1 second. I'll take the commission's votes by roll call. Nick Venti.
Aye.
Mike Siki.
Aye.
Bob Seacor.
Aye.
Jim Chambers.
Aye.
Steph Quinlan.
Aye.
Rich Gullick.
Aye.
And Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 7:10 PM.
makes up now. And I love that term, slow creeping inventory. Man's a genius. Man's a genius.